Morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee Chat. Wow, it is so lovely and peaceful out here this morning. I'll tell you, just amazingly beautiful to just come out and kind of like chill and boy, guys, I'll tell you what, taking a mental break is well worth it. You gotta do it. You just gotta do it. It is for your own sanity and health. This things in this space, especially this space, are so volatile and crazy that when you're trying to follow it day by day, it can literally kind of just send you off into, some other place sometimes. And especially the way the news comes out. I mean, today I'm reading articles, and of course, we're thinking about BRICS with this whole, between today, the 22nd to the 24th, they're meeting there in South Africa, and a lot of new applicants into the BRICS, League of Nations, if you will. And of course, one of the big ones there is Saudi Arabia. And of course, that's because of the whole petrodollar deal. And of course, this whole idea that BRICS is coming out with its own digital currency that will be able to be traded amongst all the various nation states. And it's being rumored that it's going to be backed by gold. Now, some of the articles I'm reading on that are saying, hey, look, it's absolutely going to be a big time deal. Should we see BRICS come out with a currency like that where they're able to trade within one another, it's going to kill the US dollar hegemony that's been going on. And of course, we've been saying that since the death of the petrodollar, where, Saudi Arabia is selling their gold out there in the world, or gold, sorry, their oil out there in the world for gold and other types of currencies, that the US dollar, the petrodollar, has basically died. And like I like to say, we're just waiting on the funeral. I mean, that's what's going on. And this is going to have a major impact in a lot of Western nations with respect to the inflationary result. And you got people out there encouraging the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates to somewhere in the neighborhood of 6% or higher in order to combat the potential for, this big wave of inflation that's coming. But guys, it's an unstoppable tsunami. I don't think they have any method or means to really curb inflation. Maybe, just maybe, would be to stop the printing presses, but we know they're not going to do that. That is exactly the plan. That's the whole point of central banks, is to inflate. They're not going to do it. Now, another big piece of news that's coming out is, of course, Jerome Powell's, Jackson Hole speech that's coming due. I think he's doing it on the 25th of August or something like that. So there's a lot of speculation as to what he's going to come out and say. And of course, you're going to watch these markets like flutter about. I mean, that's the whole sentiment analysis piece in these markets, isn't it? Because if Powell gets up there and he gives a speech and says, oh, we're going to raise the interest rate by such and such 25 basis points, let's say, before the speech is done, the market's reacting. I mean, that's a big time deal. And so we're seeing a lot of volatility in all these markets due to all that's going on. And, it's the uncertainty and the volatility that comes with that. And money moves, doesn't it? Money does not stay stagnant. And what does money look for most? It looks for the safest haven that it can find, where it can grow and make more money and yet, not be exposed to like massive risk and stuff like that. And guys, we are seeing it happen, and we're seeing a change in the environment in a big way. Watch and see what transpires over this next little bit with equities and with commodities, and especially with this digital asset space. I kid you not. But having said that, there is a tremendous disparity going on as well, which is absolutely, this is going to be extremely painful for a lot of people because, there's most folks out there that are being, kind of impacted by this inflation in a big way. One of my coaching guys was telling me how a friend of his who's, has a mortgage on property over in London there. Anyway, his mortgage literally has gone up by 100% over the last 18 months due to the raise in rates and inflation. It was absolutely ridiculous in terms of what this guy is paying on his mortgage. It just really obscene. And it's got to the point where it becomes almost where they can't do it, where they're literally having to walk away. Now imagine yourself in a situation where you've been paying down on your mortgage, 5, 7, 10 years, maybe 12 years, and then the rates go up so high that you can't even afford to make your mortgage payments anymore. You start to fall into arrears, right? Like that. bank comes along, scoops up your home, and all those years of paying, all that work, sweat, and toil, gone. What does that do? I'll tell you, that has the stress that is bringing into our marketplaces, where people are really, kind of fed up with the way in which the system has worked against them. I mean, look, this whole idea that inflation is just the result of the current environment, really nobody's fault, is absolute baloney. Because these economists that are out there advising the government, don't kid yourself, they advise them to let them know what the results of all this helicopter money, all this stimulus, all this, all that, these trillions and trillions of dollars that are being printed, what effect that was going to have on the economy. But that's the government's biggest inflation is the government's biggest temptation, isn't it? Because they can inflate their way out of debt. Meanwhile, do you think we can inflate ourselves out of debt? Yeah, absolutely not. What happens is they literally go into our pockets and pull out cash by the fistfuls because they destroy the purchasing power of those dollars. And I'm telling you, with this whole deal, the death of the petrodollar, BRICS nations coming along and challenging that system with the creation of their own dollar, potentially backed by precious metals. And you got Saudi Arabia and all these other oil-producing countries selling their oil, outside of the U.S. dollar, which was agreed to by Henry Kissinger back in the 70s. Those dollars, that the demand for those dollars because of the world reserve currency status is going to come back home. And when it does, and those chickens come home to roost, it is going to be obscene. You think inflation is bad now? You're going to see absolute pandemonium. I genuinely believe that. Unless they do something and do something fast, it is going to be bad, big time bad. Now, having said that, I was reading another article about China and how China is becoming a global powerhouse in the distribution of liquid natural petroleum. This is absolutely big, and they've opened up trading desks in Singapore and London to take a major bite in the world stage there. And you literally had France not too long ago buying what I thought it was something like 60,000 tons of liquid natural petroleum, and they were doing it in Chinese yuan. Now that speaks volumes about what's happening in the wide world. Here you got an ally to the U.S. trading in liquid natural petroleum outside of the U.S. dollar and in Chinese yuan. That says it all right there, guys. Don't believe the narrative. Don't believe what's coming out the pike there, daily being fed, to us, because the reality is things are not getting as rosy as they would like to say. And for a lot of folks, they're going to be hurting big time because, hey, look, when you're wealthy, and in fact, one of the articles I was reading is, hey, inflation really only benefits governments, big banks, and those that are already wealthy. Why? Well, because, when you're already wealthy, you're already invested in a lot of various, things like commodities, like equities, like these digital assets in a big way, because you put it aside and this and that. And that becomes a counterbalance to inflation. And how is that? Well, because the cost of those things in dollars causes the prices of them to rise. It's that whole, did gold go up or did the dollar go down in value? And that's what's going on. And of course, the dollar has been collapsing in value in a big way. And what we're going to see is we're going to see that lesser and lesser demand for the U.S. buck that's out there. And of course, that's going to hurt just the rank and file, the average guys out there that are just working to have a life, a home, put their kids through school, family, and on and on and on. And it is going to be devastating. And it's really, in my mind, a lot of these people need to be held to some level of accountability for their poor stewardship. At least, in my case, in my estimation, it's intentional negligence. And guys, that's the way it is. It is intentional, isn't it? I mean, they're moving us into a new economic system whereby the whole wide world, we are going to be transacting in these digital assets. And then comes the issue is, what are we forfeiting to get there, right? Of course, with central bank digital currencies, there's that fourth element to the monetary instrument that they want to employ, and that is the social controls. And that's why I say it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we are getting out there and getting behind people that will protect, our autonomy and privacy and all those things when as we do move into this thing. Because if we don't, then you've got a whole organization out there, don't you? Out there like the WEF talking about what their future outlook for the world is. By 2030, you're going to own nothing and be happy about it. Why? Because, guys, they're going back to that whole idea of planned obsolescence. It just slipped me for a second there. Planned obsolescence, where everything is basically a lease deal, and that's going but way back in the 1930s when they were going through that whole depressionary event. This idea, this economic idea of planned obsolescence came out on the table. That is exactly what the WEF wants. And why do they want that? Because, boy, it puts all the eggs in somebody else's basket, and other folks have all the control. If you can own nothing, you have to lease everything. Who are you leasing it from? Well, it's usually going to be big business and big government. That is for sure. Somebody is going to be pulling the levers, pushing the buttons, and pulling the strings, right? And they don't want that to be us. That's why we have to get out there, get ahead of this situation, get invested, research it for yourself, and protect your future going forward. And with inflation coming the way in which it is, hey, plan ahead. Put some more stuff up there in the pantry. Do what you need to do to prepare for what's coming, because it is coming. And there's a lot of people out there, they can't even hear that the storm is on the way. It causes them too much stress. Wait till the storm actually gets here in a powerful way and see how much stress that's going to... Guys, look, it's kind of like car insurance. We all have it, but we hope we never have to use it, don't we? Well, guys, it's like that. Get yourself some insulation so that, when the storm comes, you're not out there in the cold. That's what I would suggest and recommend. And that's the only way a lot of us can prepare. Now, if you're in a different situation, you're able to not be in debt, and you're able to invest in this space, then do that. And don't despise the day of small beginnings, because I'll tell you something, things are going to change rapidly. I really love what Linda P. Jones put out there the other day, that, look, we're not wrong. We are just early and in a powerful way. So, hey, let's just, keep that on top of mind, because a lot of times you feel like the waiting game kind of tests your patience, tests your resolve, tests your faith, doesn't it? And that's the whole point. I remember that story about Abraham. He was promised to have a son, and that, his children would be like the sand, the seashore, or the stars in the sky and all that. Well, it was 25 plus years after he got that, promise from God that his Isaac came along. And, it says that, against all hope, Abraham and hope believed, and that's the whole deal. It's like, look, we're not believing in the circumstances, we're believing in the promise, kind of thing. And that's how I would encourage you to think, because that's what gets you through, when things look bleak, and it's a long road to hoe. And I've been at it myself for multiple years. Judy and I have been at it, so we totally get it and understand. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I sure hoping you're having an amazing day. And until later on, we have another a fantastic video to give to you. And I think you're going to find it extremely encouraging. So until then, guys, I sure hope you have a great one, and take care.